NGO Forum on Women, Beijing, 1995. Open!
More than 20 years have passed since the 1995 Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing laid out an expansive vision and body of commitments for achieving gender equality, women's empowerment and sustainable development. In the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2015, governments reaffirmed the Beijing Platform for Action as a foundation for sustainable development and made a commitment to integrate gender perspectives in sustainable development policies and programs. While the gender and environment nexus is increasingly acknowledged in international agreements and national policy documents, implementation and follow-through need to be strengthened. The extent and gravity of environmental crisis globally require a decisive move away from business-as-usual approaches.
I think that if you focus on the results on the ground and you kind of focus on what's good for the family and what's good for society, then you kind of more or less automatically go in this direction, because you can't really get the best results on the ground unless you use all resources in society, which are for women. And I think also we have gone through this, that you have, first of all, to fight for it, you have to get legality in place, laws and regulation, but that's not even enough either. There will still be discrimination. So you have actually to fight all the time, and you have to fight. Men and women have to join hands. And I certainly, if men think about what's good for society in the long run, they will see that. And it certainly was a struggle, and it's still a struggle in my country and in many others, but we will see how we can share experiences and help each other towards a better society for all.
Global drivers and trends, including, importantly, gender norms, establish the overarching context of life on the planet. The forces that create environmental sustainability are often also responsible for gender and other social inequality. Environmental decisions and decision makers are gendered. This is true at macro as well as micro levels, including in regard to individual decision making. Systems of political power and economic systems are shaped by cultural norms in which gender presumptions are embedded. While greater gender equality will not magically solve all environmental problems, and environmental sustainability will not automatically ensure greater gender equity, there are strong ideological synergies between forces of equity or inequity in both realms.
We need to create these enabling conditions. It's a really fancy word. The didactics of our conversations are not conducive to creating this sense of safe space where people can feel that trust is building. And I think this is one of the things that women particularly, and I am saying women as opposed to just gender, I think women bring a different kind of dialogue. And you'll see that here, the numbers of instances where it's the women's forum, the women's group of networks of ministers and so forth that have created that dialogue and open space. So we have issues not only of unpaid work, of time poverty, but of sexual discrimination. We have so many issues still to address. But at the core, public funding must be put towards increasing women's access to a healthy environment and a healthy environmental education.
Since 1972, environmental concerns have increasingly been integrated in international and national policies and governance mechanisms, including the SDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, and international bodies associated with agreements on climate change, biodiversity, protection of the ozone layer, and international trade in hazardous waste, among dozens of others.
If you think about the consumption patterns that we have, even there, gender is a very, very powerful force for I would say, a not disinterested settings, which means that women often are overexposed to many, many more chemicals than we would ever have imagined a few years ago. So shifts in sort of gender-based societal norms goes right back to the core of what are we trying to produce, what are we putting into the marketplace. The demand and the consumption patterns really also need to be gender sensitive.
Making human rights real and tangible, that is, not just theoretical rights that exist on paper, is one of the most significant moral challenges of the 21st century. Nation-states have a recognized responsibility to protect their citizens and the environment. In more than 100 countries, various notions of environmental rights have been given recognition. However, the extent to which a constitutional principle translates into an entitlement that gives citizens the power to hold their government or other governments accountable for preventing pollution, claim damages due to environmental destruction, or ensure equitable access to natural resources of good quality is still hotly contested. Well, that's our program for today. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Ayola Kasim, asking you to join us next week when we open Earth File on another issue on the environment. But before then, our inbox, earthfile@channelstv.com, is always available for your comments and questions. We hope to see you next week. Bye for now.